2018 has come to a close already. Can you believe it? This time last year, fans were still reveling about one of the most vicious knockouts in UFC history when Francis Ngannou left us all with our jaws on the floor with the win over Alistair Overeem. This time a year ago, fans were singing the praises of Khabib Nurmagomedov after he scored a very dominant victory over Edson Barboza, and it was at this time that the masses really start getting behind the Eagle to finally get his lightweight title shot. Chris Cyborg was just after beating Holly Holm, and Max Holloway was fresh off of beating Aldo for the second time in his career. Needless to say, a lot can happen in 12 months. With the year coming to a close, and after reflecting on how many major changes there have been in our sport in the last 365 days, it got me thinking about what's ahead for us in 2019. I think it's fair to say that above all else, the most significant change is the UFC's partnership with ESPN that's due to kick off on January 19th. After a long and I think overall successful run with Fox, the UFC has made the transition to the worldwide leader in sports, and that excites me greatly. Being on Fox over the past 7 years was a game changer. The promotion got on a major network, and it was that validated the sport to the fans and the rest of the outside world as a legitimate sport that deserves a spot at the table next to professional hockey, football, baseball, etc. But I feel like the move over to ESPN is the sport entering into another stratosphere. And while I'm interested to see what the network does with it in terms of production and things of the like, it's the exposure that MMA is going to get that has me stoked about this move more than anything else. As a long-time diehard fan of the sport, I want to see MMA be successful and to grow as much as possible. And the move to the network is the next progressive step in bringing it to the next level. ESPN's own Ariel Helwani, he said that the sport is in good hands at its new home, and I believe him. But all optimism aside, there's also a lot to not be happy with as well. I hate to bitch and complain about this just because anybody that is familiar with my work knows that I've been banging on and on, beating the dead horse about this for so long now that I avoid talking about the subject because I can't help but roll my eyes at myself when it comes up. But being in the entertainment of this sport has grown so tiresome for me that I can't even begin to express how desensitized I am to fighters' tweets and, in a lot of cases, interviews. It doesn't apply to all, but it applies to a meaningful percentage of fighters out there. Feeling the need to be outspoken and kick up static for the sake of getting attention, even if it's not at all who they are as a person. The phony beefing and the disingenuous trash talk has been out of hand for so long now that I'm just completely numb to it. The long-winded Instagram posts and the call-outs on social media have zero effect on me whatsoever, and I have to believe I'm not the only one who feels this way. Granted, I understand why it is this way, and I don't fault anyone for doing what they have to do to provide for themselves or their family because these tactics absolutely generate results. Back when Chael Sonnen was running amok, it was incredible. Nobody in the sport was doing and saying what he was doing. It was shocking, and it was amazing entertainment at the time because he was the outlier, the single and only person doing and saying such things in the name of promotion. And it's easy to say this in retrospect, but back in those days, at least for a period of time, not much of the fan base was in on the gag, and that's what made it so great. In this day and age, you're an outlier if you aren't trying to cut promos and to talk trash and to be a character. I hope this trend eventually subsides. Not to mention that world titles are nothing more than a promotional tool. That one really irks me the most because 4 or 5 years ago, UFC world titles were held in such reverence and had such meaning with a lineage that fans could trace back to the beginning of the respective divisions. These days, I barely know who has an interim championship or who has an undisputed championship. The lineages that have been 20 years in the making have been completely scrambled and displaced, all in the name of being able to put a gold belt on a poster. I'm all for making the fights that the fans want to see, but if I could make one change to how things are ran these days, it would be to implement the hierarchy of champions and contenders being respected and abided by. I understand why things are the way they are. With the new ownership of the UFC and the need to generate business to keep things moving, I'm not mad at anyone for these things, but I just hope we can get back to what this whole thing is based around. The actual fights. I'm not going to hold my breath for it happening over the course of the next year, but I'm not shutting the door on the possibility of it someday returning to the point to where we're operating on a strict system that respects the titles and the contenders. I feel like if we want to continue to progress and to stand next to the NHLs, the NBAs, the NFLs, it eventually has to get back to the standings and opportunities being given primarily based off performances and not off how many Instagram followers one has or doesn't have. Here I am talking as if 2018 is concluded, and we're on the cusp of a major event with the return of John Bones Jones taking on Alexander Gustafsson, with a co-main event that I'm beyond excited for between Chris Cyborg and Amanda Nunes. 2018 is going out with a bang, and an event that could easily produce some of the most memorable fights of the entire year. So cheers to an amazing year in the books and another amazing year coming right down the pipes.